Welcome to School for Relationships. This video is kind of a teaser and intro video for a new series I'll be launching. This is going to be kind of a different approach than I've done to videos before, but I wanted to take some time to really talk about the hard parts of healing. When we talk about healing and building stronger self-worth and setting firmer boundaries, there's a lot of focus on how we feel after healing and feeling much stronger, better, more confident, more empowered. A lot of the messaging kind of bypasses the hard work of healing and taking better care of ourselves and focuses on this self-care as a way to glow up and become a better version of ourselves. A lot of that content can be really helpful for motivating us to just get started in doing something different, in taking care of ourselves and setting those stronger boundaries. But it doesn't necessarily prepare us for the majority of what the healing process feels like. It's kind of like, let's say you have a fitness goal and all the content you're getting is on how good you'll feel once you get to that goal and achieve that outcome. What about the process during it? When you're waking up early in the morning, when you're going to the gym, when you're grinding? This video is here to support you in that process of grinding and in the harder phases of healing from enmeshment and setting stronger boundaries. This is really kind of for people who are going through the early and middle phases of healing, where healing from enmeshment probably just feels really scary and uncertain and like a lot of hard work. And the truth is that real deep healing does not always feel good in the moment, especially at first. If we're doing that deep work, we're facing fear and a lot of painful feelings that we've been holding about ourselves and avoiding for years. And facing these deepest fears about ourselves is what makes this healing process so brave and also so challenging. And yes, eventually by facing these fears and releasing this like chronic guilt, you will feel this huge sense of catharsis and release and inner freedom and lightness and more vitality. All of that is true, but I don't want to skip past or fast forward through the parts of healing that don't feel this way. I want to stick with these harder early phases and support you during that time. You know, the times where you're doubting everything you're doing, every decision you're making. Where is this taking me? Is any of this even worth it? So to help you ride out those early phases of doubt and confusion, I'll be launching a series that starts on this Monday. And it's focused on the very mixed feelings that may come when you are first starting to heal from enmeshment. This series is here as a support when you are in the trenches of healing and doing a lot of that hard and brave work that's maybe still going unrecognized. You're not feeling the benefits from it yet, and you don't even know where this hard work is supposed to take you. So starting on Monday, I'll release a short video every morning of the week, so there's 5 in total, and each video shares a key insight for what you can expect and how you can prepare yourself for the hardest aspects of this deep healing work. And the biggest question that this series is here to answer is how you can prepare yourself for the ways that healing you changes your relationships and changes the way you feel in your relationships. And if all or most of your current relationships involve very blurry boundaries, it can be hard to even imagine how your relationships will change once you're reapproaching them with stronger boundaries. And when we feel uncertain, we often go to worst case scenarios. And a lot of people just starting to heal from enmeshment and individuate may worry that this will cause you to lose important relationships, that expressing yourself honestly will cause like irreparable damage, that the other person will be very hurt and unable to handle these changes. Sometimes when a relationship has been a certain way for a long time, it's actually easier for us to imagine that relationship ending than it is to imagine the relationship changing. The good news here is that setting stronger boundaries and being more honest and open about your needs in relationships rarely goes as catastrophically as you might imagine in some of these worst case scenarios. And that being said, approaching your relationships in a more boundaried and authentic way may be a really significant change from the status quo of that relationship, and preparing yourself for these changes can help them go a lot more smoothly. When you're first expressing your feelings and setting boundaries more openly and directly, you can and should expect resistance. In enmeshed relationships, we've built years worth of momentum carrying us in the same predictable direction and pattern in that relationship. You can think of this as this like train that has all this momentum going in a certain direction. And here you are, you're trying to grind the momentum of that train to a halt. There's all this friction, all these sparks. There might be a lot more tension and conflict. And then you're also facing the friction and tension of getting that train going in a whole new direction and building new momentum. And yes, once you've built new momentum in the relationship, eventually there will be a point where all of this gets a lot easier because the new relationship standards that you're setting just have become normalized. People will get used to these changes. Sometimes that will bring you and that other person much closer together. Other times it may cause you to grow apart from certain people. But even in the cases where you setting boundaries means that you spend less time or talk less with another person, the quality of the time that you're spending will still improve now that there's no longer unnamed guilt, resentment, or tension hovering in the air between you. And the truth is that whether individuating brings you and that other person closer together or further apart is a really big test of the strength of that relationship. This is testing both people's ability to respect each other's boundaries, to let go of feeling responsible for each other's feelings, and to accept differences and disagreements within your relationship. And while you may dread facing the other person's hurt or displeasure, I find that setting boundaries is often harder and more uncomfortable for us than it is for anyone else. You may be your biggest source of resistance throughout this process. And yes, we do have some relationships where there might also be a lot of outer resistance, but a lot of the times, in I would say the majority of your relationships, what makes this hard and uncomfortable is just the spiraling and the self-doubt and questioning yourself and going back and forth in decisions. And even in the cases where you're getting a lot of pushback from someone around your boundaries, this is a sign that that person doesn't have the emotional maturity or capacity to engage in a respectful and reciprocal relationship with you. And outside of these cases, typically the most challenging aspect of individuating in your relationships is wrestling with your own guilt and self-doubt, which is why I'm making this series. As I said, every single day over the next week, I'll be sharing one of the most important insights and like nuggets of wisdom that I've identified in healing from enmeshment for myself, doing a lot of research on this, and supporting my clients in their own healing journeys. So tune back in starting Monday morning and make sure to get your daily dose of inspiration and affirmation as you approach your own healing process in your relationships.